Hi, everybody. This is Virginia Milner from the DeKalb County Library System coming to you with another program. And today we are going to make a necklace. A couple of years ago, I did a necklace that got a lot of attention, but it was very, very labor intensive. So I've modified that necklace so that we can make something that has a kind of similar look, but it's not as, that one wasn't hard to make. It just had a lot of moving parts, and it was, it took some time. So this time we're going to do something that looks similar, but is much, much less, well, labor intensive. So we're going to make a necklace today. We'll be using wood beads, oblong wood beads, and paper beads and polymer clay. And we'll also be using silicone rings as links. And the tools that you'll need, I'll tell you the other one when we get down to the other camera. The tools that you'll need are going to be your regular square nose pliers, round nose pliers, and cutters. And again, you're going to be using polymer clay, paper, and wood for this. Now, that's what I'm using. You can use whatever beads you want. It's not really necessary to have a particular type of bead. I'm using 6mm polymer clay, and I'm using paper beads that are all different sizes because they are handmade from Uganda. Couldn't remember where I got these from Uganda. And so it just depends on the look that you're going for. This will give you a basis for how you can make your necklace, and then you can just take it from there and run with it. The other thing that we'll be using is 20 gauge wire. For this particular piece, you can either use 20 or 22 gauge wire. And I say that you should have the option because it depends on the size of the drilled hole for your beads, because you're going to be using feeding the wire through some of the beads twice. I'm using the wood beads because they have a large drilled hole, and it's easy to get 20 gauge wire through those beads 2 times. And I just wanted to save myself the aggravation of having to re-drill some beads. The other thing that you're going to need is regular open jump rings. So we'll be using open jump rings and some closed rings that are, what are these made of? Acrylic rings. Anyway, so let's get down to the other camera. In addition to your regular tools, you'll also need a ruler so that you can measure out your wire. So let's get down to the other camera because this is going to be a lot of fun, and I want to get started. Here we go. All right, so we have these acrylic rings, closed rings that we're going to be using in 2 different colors is what I'm doing because I'm going to layer them, the small ring over the larger ring. And we're going to be using closed jump rings to link everything together. We're going to use these kind of oblong rectangle, I guess they're rectangular shaped wooden beads and polymer clay beads and wooden beads to put our piece together. And here's what you're going to see when we make them. It's going to look like this. This is going to be our handmade chain. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to make these links. Let's get started here. And so what I'm going to do is measure out. I had to look at it for a second. I thought I got the wrong size wire. Oh, I know what I wanted to tell you. These paper beads that I'm using come from Uganda, and I got them from Project Hope. And it says here on the little card, isn't that cute? The little kids. And the village of people that use these to feed their, as a way to earn money to feed their families. Okay, and I got these from Project Have Hope, which empowers Ugandan artisans through the sale of handcrafted beads made from recycled paper. Varnished for durability, the vibrantly colored beads are crafted into wearable art. Each purchase supports our mission of educating women and children and providing business opportunities to empower women and give them the courage to dream. I really love that, and I've been getting beads from them for a while. I also have a contact in Africa that I can get beads from for the same purpose, because I really think it's neat that they're able to support their families doing something artistic like that. I think it's awesome. So anyway, so let's get started. We are going, oh, and you can also make your own. You can actually make your own paper beads. I've done a tutorial showing you how to do it. It is, talk about labor intensive. There's a lot that goes on. If you ever get a chance to go back and watch the video, it's really interesting. And if you go on YouTube, at least it used to be there. They showed how some of these villages made the beads, and it's the entire village gets involved because it is actually a business. It's a pretty amazing one at that. So let's get going with our piece that we're going to do. The first thing I want to do for each of my links, I need 5 inches of wire. So we're going to start there with our 5 inches. Okay. And I'm going to show you how to make 2 different links. So I'm going to go ahead and cut 2 pieces, 5 inches each. Okay. So the first one I'm going to show you how to do is just going to be a single bead on your link. So we're going to start there. The first thing that I'm going to do is go down a little less than halfway down my wire. So I have 5 inches. So that means 2.5 is my halfway point. So I'm going to go down a little more than 2 inches down my wire, about 2.25. So there we are, a little less than halfway. Then I'm going to make a loop at the top that's going to be used as a way to connect my beads. And the way I'm going to do that, I've got my pliers in here. I'm going to take this short end and I'm going to bend it down over the pliers. So now you can see I have one that's a good inch longer than the other, which is what I want. Then I'm going to squeeze the wire together, the ends of the wire together, as close to my pliers as I can get. And I'm going to rotate it back and forth a little bit until I have the equivalent of a loop right here at the top. I want to make sure that my links, or that the legs of my wire are side by side, like so. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to straighten this out a little bit. Doesn't have to be too straight because you're about to make some spirals out of it. So no point in straightening it out too much. So what I'm going to do now is feed my wooden bead on. And now you see why I use the wooden beads, because they have a nice large opening and I can get both of the ends of my wire through there to push all the way up to the bottom of my loop, like so. The next thing I'm going to do is make a spiral out of my short end. So I'm going to take my round nose pliers and I'm going to grab the tip of my 20 gauge wire or 22 gauge, depending on what you use, and I'm going to make a loop. So I'm just going to rotate until I have a loop that's not quite closed. Now, the type of loop that you make is up to you. You can make one let's see here. You can make one that's completely closed like this, very close, with the rings very close together, or you can make one with open rings like this one. Get you one that's really open. Here we go. You can make it really open like this, or you can make it closed like this, or you can do what I do and have both. I wanted something that was very organic and unique, and so I opted for both types of rings. So I'm going to show you both of those. So what I've done here is make a loop. Just back up the ends of the wire to the long edge of the long tail of wire. Then I'm going to grab my flat nose pliers and I'm going to make a spiral. So now I'm just wrapping the wire around itself. Just spiraling. There we go, and just keep wrapping it until I get to the bottom of my bead and can't go any further. So there we go. And I want my loop and my spiral to be facing the same direction. And by that I mean I want my loop to be flat and my spiral to be flat as well. I don't want one going up and down and one going side to side. They want to be, you want them to be going the same direction. This wire is very malleable, so you can adjust it if you need to. Now I want to make sure that my wires are not crossed. This one got a little bit crossed over. So I'm going to bring it back over to the other side because they need to be side by side. So now I need to make another spiral. It's going to go in the same direction as this spiral so that they're kind of layered one on top of the other. So now I'm going to make another spiral, grab my pliers and clamp onto the end of my wire with my pliers. I want to check and make sure none of the end is sticking out of the back. And I hold on to it and rest it on my finger because it gives me just a little bit of leverage. If I try to do it in midair, I get this. I don't have anything to hold it in place. So I just rest it on my finger until I get my loop started, and it makes it a little easier. So there, I've got my loop. Let's get under here, under the camera, where you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so I've got my loop, and I'm just going to keep wrapping the wire around itself, like so. Now for this one is going to be the one that we use to attach the link. So I'm going to need a little bit of space in between that first loop and the second loop so that I can get my jump rings in there. Okay, so now I'm going to take my pliers, my flat pliers, and I'm going to start to make my spiral. And now I'm going to close the wires a little closer to each other. just a bit. Keep making my spiral, wrapping the wire around itself. And now see how one's going one way and the other's going the other way? Again, very malleable wire, not a problem. You just twist it back into place. And they're fine. Okay, so there we have that. And I want to give it a little bend just so it has a little more decorative. So there I've got that bent, and now I can roll it until I have a nice ledge on my wire that backs up against the other bead. And that is my link. There it is. That's my little link. And you can make whatever adjustments you need to make. If you want to back that up a little bit, straighten it out a little more. Depends on the look that you're going for. But there's my little link. Awesome. Now I want to make one with another bead on it. See this little space here? What if I want to put a little bead in there? Why not? Let's do it. So again, I'm going to take my wire. I'm going to go about a little less than halfway down my wire. That looks good. And you can eyeball it. This is not an exact science. And I'm going to go about halfway down my pliers, a little less than halfway down my pliers because my loop doesn't have to be that big. And I'm going to fold the short end of my wire over my pliers. And again, I have one longer than the other, which is exactly what I want. I'm going to squeeze the ends of my wire together under my pliers. Now, if your hands aren't strong enough to do that, you can use a second set of pliers to do that too. You can take your pliers and squeeze it until you have your loop as well. Either way works. Whichever way works good for you. So there's my little loop on top. There's my two ends of wire side by side, like so. And I'm going to put my first bead on, which is again going to be, for me, my wooden bead, over both wires. And I like to kind of move this one out of the way so it's not in my way while I'm trying to work with the shorter one. Now this one, I think I'm going to make it an open spiral instead of the closed spiral that I made on this one. This one's nice and closed, meaning that the links are very close together. This one I'm going to make a little more open just so I can show you a different way to do it. So again, I'm going to grab the tip of my wire with the tip of my pliers. I'm going to make a loop, but this time I'm not going to close the loop. I'm just going to make it nice and open. And as you can see, I'm bending my wire as I go. Not that much of a bend, Virginia. I'm bending my wire as I go so that I can make a little open spiral. So instead of wrapping the wire around itself and close to itself, I'm leaving a little bit of space in between the wires. And then again, when I get to a certain point, I can use my pliers or I can use my fingers. It's entirely up to you which you prefer to use. But again, make sure I'm making sure I keep a little bit of space in between my wires so that I have an open spiral. And I keep going until I can't go any further. So there's my open spiral. Looks like something out of the Twilight Zone. And then you can adjust it so that the wires are spaced the way you want them. Here's my spiral. Now I'm going to do the other one, but before I do, because I want a bead on here, I'm going to slide this little polymer clay bead up my wire, just like that, and just let it hug the bottom of my other spiral. Now I'm going to go ahead and bend this back so that this doesn't keep sliding. I'm going to bend my wire back just under the bead, just out to the side like that. And now I'm going to make my open spiral. Grab the tip of my wire with the tip of my pliers, and I'm again making my spiral going up to meet the other spiral. So just make my little loop nice and open and not touching, just like I did the other one. Yeah. And just keep rotating. And again, I want to leave some space here because my jump ring is going to go in between the rungs. So now I can use my fingers like that, or I can use my pliers. Whichever works best for you is just fine. Make my little adjustments. I have a sharp bend right here that I'm not sure I like very much. So I'm going to take my pliers and straighten that out. Get rid of that sharp bend so I can make it a little more rounded and graceful. There we go. And there it is. Make sure everything's facing the right direction. These should be flat and this should be flat. It's a little bit off to the side. So I'm just going to grab it with my pliers and I'm going to twist it until everything's going the same direction. And there's my link. Very, very easy. Nice. Okay, now let's put everything together. So what I'm going to do, you can decide whether or not you want your links to go all one way, which is what I did. I went all one way, but what I did was make my spirals just go in different directions. Instead of trying to make sure they all go this way, spiral over here on this side all the way down, I kind of flipped it around. So I've got a spiral going that way and spiral going this way and another spiral going this way. And it's so that it's not so symmetrical. I just wanted something that looked fun. So what I'm doing now is attaching my links. So let's see what I have here. I have a bead on, I have a wooden bead and a paper bead on this one. So for the next link, I think I'm going to just do a wooden bead. Just wood. Yes. And then for the one after that, I can make it. I'm going to flip this. See how my spirals are going this way on this one? I'm going to flip this one the other way, just because. Why not? And then this one, I think I'll flip so that the spirals go that way. Nope, this way. There you go. Okay, so how do we link them together? Well, we grab a couple of jump rings. I'm using 2 jump rings for a couple of reasons. I like the security 2 jump rings, plus because we have spirals all throughout our pattern, the 2 jump rings are kind of in keeping with our pattern. It just kind of fits in better than having spirals and then a jump ring. If I have two jump rings, it looks like part of the design instead of something holding the necklace together. So what we're going to do is link two jump rings to our acrylic beads. So I'm going to have two jump rings linking my two acrylic beads that are going to be one on top of the other, like that. I don't know if you can see that. So that it's the silver bead that I have here is just framed by the copper bead. And I have all different kinds of beads. So those of you who get kits will get different shades of links of these acrylic links. All right, so I'm going to open a jump ring, and the proper way to open a jump ring is to find the opening, put my pliers on one side of it. I'm going to take my thumb, because this is a nice large jump ring and I have space to do it. I'm going to push down on the other side of my jump ring until it's nicely open. And then I'm going to grab my my necklace, my link. I'm going to slide my jump ring in between the rings of my spiral. And this is why I said you need some space at the bottom of your spiral so that the jump rings will fit. Then I'm going to take one of my rings, and I want the silver, I want the small bead on top and the large bead on the bottom. So I'm going to put the large bead in first and the small bead on top of it. And I'm going to close my jump ring like that. I'm going to bring this down just a tad. It'll be easier to see. So there. And then I'm going to grab my second jump ring and I'm going to open it. Here's a second way that you can open a jump ring. Just take your fingers and thumb, and on each side of your opening, which is right here, and twist. And it's open. Neat, huh? And now I'm going to slide my jump ring into my two acrylic rings and back up through my spiral and close it. And I find it easier once I have all of these other beads around to use pliers to close it, because they take up less space than my fingers do. Right? And there's my one side of my connector right there. And now I need to do the other side. So I'm going to grab a second pair of jump rings. And here's the third way that you can open up your jump rings. Find the opening again, right there. Put a pair of jump rings on one side of the opening. Grab another pair of jump rings and twist. And there we do. There we have it. Nice and open. Now I'm getting ready to connect this side of my rings to my next little link. And like I said, I like to go back and forth with the direction of my spirals. So this one's going this way. I'm going to flip this one so that it's going that way. Just because why not? Slide my jump ring in the top of my loop, the loop that's at the top there with the bead. Slide that in turn in to both of my silicone rings, or my my closed rings, and close it up. Make sure that the ends are meeting and nice and flush together. Here we go. Grab my other jump ring and do the same thing. Just follow the first one. You always want to make sure that your jump rings don't get entangled with each other. They each have to be their own separate piece. So I always make sure that this jump ring is over here when I'm hooking the other jump ring through. Check and make sure it's not in there. There it is over there all by itself. Very good. And close. Close it up. Very nice. Let's make sure that those ends are nice and flush together. Okay. There we go. Very nice. See how that works? Very nice. And now let's attach the next link. I'm going to grab my acrylic rings again and a pair of jump rings, open jump rings, and I'm going to open them. Whichever way works better for you, or best for you really, because there's several ways to do it. Okay, and again, I want my large ring on the bottom. So I'm going to slide my jump ring into my spiral, put my large ring on first, my small ring on second. And close. Okay, make sure that the ends are close together. You might have to jiggle it a little bit. And by jiggle, I mean you might want to just work with it until you make sure that the ends of your wire are nice and close together. You don't want any openings in there. I think that's clear. There we go. Yes. And then grab my other jump ring and do the same thing. Slide it through both of my rings. And my spiral, making sure that I don't get caught in the other jump ring. And close it up. Use my pliers while I hold my beads in place. There we go. Nice. It's one side. And let's attach to the other side. Okay, so let's lay this out so I know which direction my spirals are going. They're going this way. I want that one to go that way. Let's grab my open jump rings and open them. One. That's the other. Now, the thing that you don't want to do with jump rings is pull the rings apart. because if you do that, I'm going to ruin the jump ring just to show you. Because if you do that, you run the risk of ruining the shape. Because now I don't have a nice round shape anymore. And trying to push that back together is very difficult. So now when I push it back together, I have a kind of an oblong shape instead of the nice round shape that I want. It's kind of misshapen. And I don't want to do that to my jump rings if I can possibly avoid it. Darn it, now I just ruined the jump ring. Darn it. That's okay. All right. So now let's connect the links. So I'm going to grab my open jump ring and the link that I'm going to put on. I want you to go that way. Slide my jump ring into the head of my link, which is right here at the top where the bead is. And okay, sure that's going right. Yes, that's going. I want my silver on top and my copper on the bottom. So that's going that way. This is going this way. Grab my jump ring, slide it on. And slide it on my acrylic beads, my closed rings. Close it up. Just twist it closed. Very good. Grab my other jump ring. Slide that into my loop and into my two rings. One and two. Check and make sure it's not hooked up with my other jump ring. It's nice and loose and separate. Let's close that up. Really nice. And there we are. And there, ladies and gentlemen, is our chain. Nice. Isn't that pretty? And it's really easy. It's just more repetitive than anything else, but it's not hard to do. And I'll tell you what, everybody's going to think. I mean, every time people look at things like this, they go, oh, that was a lot. That looks like a lot of work. And it does, but it isn't. So you can impress all your friends and family with your lovely little chain that really wasn't hard to do at all. So let's finish it off. So now what we need to do, I already got my jump rings on the other side. So now it's time to put our clasp on. Now, what kind of clasp can we use, do you ask? That's the question of the hour. I think I want to make a nice spiral clasp to go with the rest of the pattern. Why not? I think that would be very, very nice. So that is what we're going to do. Put these down so I don't lose them. That is what we're going to do. First thing I want to do is attach. Let me see, I've already got this on here. That's fine. I'm going to attach that to the bottom of my hook. And it depends on how long you want it to be. I think this is probably a good 20 inches by now, which is plenty. It's supposed to just be a chain, and that's a good length to show it off. So we got 12. Ooh, 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 ooh. I've got 20, almost 24 inches. Oh, that's going to be a beauty. Okay, excellent. Okay, so I'm going to attach this these are going to attach to the bottom. This is what I think I'm going to make. This little kind of, clasp so that it looks like the rest of my necklace. It just goes right along with it. I just made that up before I came on camera. It's like, what do I want to do? Okay, so what we're going to do is take another 5 inches of wire. 5 inches of 20 gauge wire. Okay. All right. And this time, I'm going to bend about an inch from the top, of the end of my wire. Okay, so I'm going to take my pliers and I'm going to grasp my wire just that inch from the top. I'm going to bend it over until the wires are side by side, like so. Then I'm going to squeeze those wires together until I can get them as close together as I can. And I'd suggest that you use your pliers for that, your square pliers, and just squeeze it until they're nice and close together and side by side. A little kink in there. So there we go, nice and close together. And then I'm going to bend the end of the wire about 1/2 inch from the bottom. Like that. And I'm going to grab that bottom just above the bend with my pliers, and I'm going to wrap that wire around the stem. So this short tail is going to wrap around the stem of my wire, and it might be easier to use your pliers to do that because it's such a short tail. I'm just going to wrap it around. You only have to go around maybe 1.5 to 2 times. It doesn't have to be a lot of wraps, just enough to secure it. Then once you've done that, you can clip off the end. And this little tail down here, it'll fly across the room or in your face. You don't want that. So I always grab one of these little spools that I have that's empty, and I'll turn that little end down into the spool and I'll clip it. Did it clip? It didn't make a noise. Clip it off. There we go. There you go. There it is. Right down in there, instead of flying into my face or something. Now notice I clipped it so that it's right here between the 2 wires that are going together, because this is going to be folded over and that little tail will be underneath where it won't catch on anything. So I want to squeeze that end down. Nice and close to the wire. And now I'm ready to make my shepherd's hook. But before I do that, let's go to the other side and make our spiral. Now, here are the 2 ends of my wire. Here's one side and there's the other side. I want my spiral to go side by side, like this. So this is going to be my hook. I didn't finish this, I just put this together real quick. This is going to be the hook. And I want my spiral to go that way. So my hook is going to go, there's that little tail there. My hook is going to go this way. And my spiral, my hook, what am I saying? My hook is going to go up and down. And my spiral is going to go right and left. So what I want to do is give a little bend to my wire. Just bend it back a little bit, like so. And now I'm going to make a spiral. And I can see that I probably don't need a spiral quite this big. I really only need a couple of inches in order to make the spiral. So I'm going to cut some of that off. I mean, you can make it as big as you want. You can make a huge spiral like this one, or you can make a smaller spiral. It's up to you. I'm going for a little bit smaller. So I'm just going to give myself 2 inches of wire. The other thing I want to do is add a bead. So I'm going to give myself my 2 inches of wire, and then I'm going to add this little bead on. And this is a nice little, just a little tiny paper bead. I'm going to slide that on. Measure my little 1.5 to 2 inches. It depends on how big you want your spiral to be. And I'm going to cut off that little end, which is about 3/4 of an inch to an inch. Nip that off, put that to the side, and let's make a spiral. So I'm going to grab my round nose pliers, and again, my hook is going to be going up and down. Here's the 2 ends, one end, the other end. My hook's going to be going up and down, and my spiral is going to be going right and left. It probably would have been easier for me to show you if I had gone ahead and made my little hook, which I think I'll go ahead and do because I know that's going to be confusing otherwise. Okay, so I'm going to make the hook. So I'm going to slide my wire all the way down to the biggest part of my pliers. Find that little nubby part. So I want that to go underneath. Yeah, it's there. So I'm going to take my pliers and slide them down the wire, just resting just above the little wrap that I did. Then I'm going to clamp down on my wire with my pliers right back here at the largest part of my pliers. I'm going to bring my wire over the pliers, over and down until I can't go any further. And so now I have a little hook. Cool beans, huh? And then I'm going to take my pliers right down here at the tip of my double-edged wire, my double looped wire, and I'm going to just give it a little ledge, just like that. Nice little graceful edge. Just makes it a little prettier. And now it's time to make my spiral. I'm going to put my bead on and my wire back, because I straightened it out when I decided to go ahead and make my little hook. And it's time to make my spiral. You need to decide if you want an open one or a closed one. I am going for open. See what I mean about if you try to do it without any leverage, it will fight you. It'll fight you anyway, but at least if you have your hand on it, it doesn't have anywhere to go or to jump away from you. So make my little loop. And start my spiral. And what I like to do is use the other hand and start to make a little curve around, kind of help it. So I'm twisting with my pliers hand, and I'm also making a little curve with my other hand. It just makes it a little faster. And then I can either use my pliers or my fingers to continue my spiral. Just continue until I can't go any further. And there it is. And there's my hook. One of a kind all the way. I love one of a kind. Isn't that neat? So depending on the bead that you put on, your little clasp is going to look different than anybody else's. Nobody else is going to have it. I like it. So now I'm going to attach my 2 jump rings into my spiral. I'm going to take 1 jump ring and open it. And again, need to make sure I open it side to side instead of pulling it apart. Slide my jump ring into my spiral opening, close it up, and grab the other jump ring and open it. Oh, get out of there. And slide that in to my little spiral. It's probably easier if I do it with my fingers instead of trying to do it with the pliers, because it wants to get caught up in that other ring, which is what I don't want it to do. Ah, now it's going to fall off. Don't fall off. Here, just feed that through, end up through my spiral, and close it up. There we go. All done. And now I just need a ring for the other side. So what I thought I would do, I could either hook it into my spiral, but instead, I think I'll follow my pattern and add, just make this a little bit longer. And you can always do this to make it a little bit longer. But what I thought I would do is hook my clasp into one of these guys. Or you can hook it into another closed jump ring if you want. But I thought this would be kind of neat because it's part of the pattern already. See if that'll work, or if that'll be too big. That's a little big. I could open this just a little and put it through like that. I want to do that. Or, yeah, I think that's what I'm going to do. I like that. I like continuing the way I start. All right, so what I need to do is attach this to my ring. And for that, I need More jump rings, more jump rings. Okay, attach that to my closed link, my closed loop, or ring. Attach that to my spiral. Close it up. Grab another jump ring, open it, slide it on my ring. Come on. And into my spiral. And close it. I wish there was a way that we could do it and have the double rings, but then this would always get caught in between the two. So it's easier to just have one. And now I have a clasp. I always like to make sure that my hook is as close to the bead as I can get. And that way I don't have to worry about my clasp opening up too much until I want to open it. It snaps into place and it slides out when I want it to. Nice and easy. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is our very easy, very complicated looking chain. I mean, really, people are just going to stop you and say, where did you get that? And you can say, oh, I created it myself. And one of the things I love more than anything is something that nobody else has. I don't care how you do this, unless you get the exact same beads and just do it the exact same way, it's always going to be different. And even if you do that, because of the fact that we're using spirals and we're freehanding it, it's still going to look kind of different. I mean, it's just inevitable that you have something that's absolutely unique. And this is so pretty. It's colorful. It's light. This is very lightweight. It looks like it'll be heavy, but it's not. So that is our piece for the day, ladies and gentlemen. So let me go ahead and put it on this display so that you can see it. There it is. And there's our piece. And it's one of those things where it depends on how long you want it to be, how many links you want to make will determine how much time you spend on it. This is about 26 inches, I believe, because we started off, we already had 24 inches. Let's see here, my glasses on. It's 12. Yeah, this is about 28 inches. And each of these links only takes maybe 5 minutes to make at the most. Once you get the hang of it, you can knock those babies out in about 3 minutes each. And then you have to just link them all together, and you can have this chain or this type of chain in about 45 minutes to an hour. I mean, so neat. And it's so unique and so colorful, and it will be all your own. Those of you who get kits are going to have your polymer clay, you're going to have your rectangle beads, you're going to have your paper beads from Uganda. I have to look every time. Is it Uganda? Because sometimes I get them from Rwanda, Uganda, and these are from Uganda. Yeah. And you're going to have your 20 gauge wire, your closed rings, your jump rings. You don't need anything else. Wire, closed ring, open jump rings, beads, and you've got a masterpiece. I love it. And I especially love that our clasp fits in with the rest of the design. That is one of my favorite things to do, is make a functional, aesthetically pleasing looking clasp. Where is it? I can't even find it. See, look at that. There it is. You can hardly see it because it looks like part of the design. It's got a spiral on it. It's got a bead on it, and it has a hook. I am all in. Isn't that neat? Let's turn this down. Isn't that neat? It's just so pretty. I like pretty things. I really do. Okay, that's it. Before I get really crazy here, that is our piece for the day. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial, and I hope you will make one of these with whatever beads you want. As you can see, this is very versatile. It's a very versatile piece, so it doesn't require the type of beads that I use. That's just the type of beads that I used because I wanted to and because I had them on hand. So go ahead, make your piece. Oh, and the other thing is, you really don't even have to use closed rings. I ordered these by mistake and couldn't figure out what the heck I was going to do with them. You can also use regular jump rings, and it would just be sort of a chainmail type of thing. You can use regular jump rings in different colors and make this do the same thing. So I hope you enjoyed this. Let me know if you did. Let me know if you didn't. And if you didn't, let me know why. Take this off. And please get in contact with me. I've started hearing from more and more of you, and I really, really like it at jewelrygin20@gmail.com. That's JEWERYGIN20@gmail.com. You can send pictures of what you make to me. You can send pictures and put them on the Facebook page of the library Facebook page, which is just facebook.com/DEKAB-library. Facebook.com/DEKALB-library, period. That's it. And DEKAB library is all together. It's not separated at all. And you can scroll down, you can see all of the classes, all of the tutorials that I've done, and you can post pictures of the things that you make that are according to each tutorial on the Facebook page, because we love to see what you're doing and what you like, so we can know how to continue to go forward. Your comments help too. It helps us to decide what the next steps are. That's enough chatter for today. I think that's it. That's everything. Until next time, enjoy your week, the rest of your week, enjoy your weekend, and so long. Bye-bye.